Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Wednesday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen calling in from the tropical island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Coming to you direct from Soho in New York City. This is Dennis, and you're still tuned in to Light Talk.
Soho.
Soho.
Oh,
Soho. We're on the HMS Pinafore. This is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers
and Sister.
That's right, Ellen. Welcome, everyone, to episode 477. And today we have a very special show, and we're chatting with Bruce Aleksander. Hey, Bruce, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here, David.
Oh, man, you're looking good. You're looking good. And you're coming from Seattle today, right? My favorite city.
I am. Mine too.
Yeah.
It's a lovely day in Seattle, about 60 degrees, but if you're planning on moving to Seattle, it's 45 degrees and raining. Terrible.
Go away. Okay, so before we get started, why don't we tell our listeners a little bit about you, Bruce? Ellen, would you do the honors?
Today's guest is Bruce Aleksander, an accomplished award-winning lighting designer and lighting director who specializes in the multi-camera broadcast environment. Classically trained by some legends in the field, Bruce combines contemporary techniques with a proven approach to achieving practical and pleasing results. As an accomplished and award-winning director of photography, Bruce brings an extensive understanding of how to create aesthetically pleasing images through lighting and lensing. Adept and well-organized, he uses a multidisciplined approach to achieve realistic solutions to difficult lighting problems. Years of experience in broadcasting inform Bruce's understanding of news, production, and engineering. As part of his approach to lighting, he encourages cooperation and collaboration between departments to help ensure a successful project and an outstanding visual impact. Welcome to Light Talk.
Thank you.
Let's back up to the beginning, Bruce. What got you in this crazy industry of lighting design?
Whoa. Hang on. I think the first question should be, we have discovered that television lighting directors all have yachts.
Yes.
What is the size of the yacht you have moored?
Is it a yacht or is it a ship? Because there's a distinction.
It's a dinghy.
No way.
And mostly it floats in the bathtub.
You're just
Are
being
you
modest.
kidding?
My little dinghy in the bathtub. I like that.
I'm sorry, Ellen. Take it away.
We have gone to the
No,
bathroom.
go right ahead. That's fine.
Who among you owns a yacht? I would like to know so that maybe I could come over and use it.
Apparently, I own 3 of them. I just can't find them in the bay.
I can look out my window and occasionally see one on the water on South Lake Union.
Okay.
And that's about it. No yacht on this end.
All right. No yacht. Okay.
No yacht. Okay.
All right. So let's get back to the question. How do you get started in the business?
Okay. And
Who'd you pay off?
if you hear somebody complaining in the background, it's my producer. He's a 20-year-old tuxedo cat.
Oh, can we see it? What's the cat's name? What's the cat's
come
name?
over. Come over.
Okay, yeah, you get the pussy here. I've
So-
got
so
2 here. Okay.
The cat's name is Lumen.
Oh, of course.
I like that.
It's a Lumen pussy.
Yeah,
we have Lumen
that's
Brothers,
right.
Lumen Sister, Lumen Pussies. I've
that's
got
it.
2 also.
I can't take this. I just can't take this. My mind is running wild.
Lumens.
If as far as how I got into lighting, it's been a very strange, charmed road. The first time I ever had my hands on lighting controls, I was in second grade. Some teacher who was clearly out of their mind decided that it would be fine for a second grader to be in charge of turning on the lights in our auditorium. And it's I didn't do it a lot because we didn't do much in our elementary school. But the first time I can remember dealing with lighting was looking over my right shoulder onto the stage and having my hands on a breaker panel and flipping the lights and going, that looks good, that doesn't look good. I loved it. There was, sorry, there was.
For our viewers at home, Bruce is being attacked by a cat right now.
That's true, and he's knocked over a glass of water.
Okay.
But,
my God.
Thanks. Go
Well, at
away
least
with
it wasn't wine.
Right. I'll whine about it. But that was like my introduction to lighting. My father, who worked at Mattel, would put on shows. They do road shows, and they would take something off Broadway, and they would record a music album and twist the lyrics to match the product line, and then put on these productions. And I can remember watching one when I was about 8 years old, and that they had like an old time film look that they were going for. So they were using a lobster scope to create this stroboscopic image on stage. And I thought, how cool. And then the union guys came over, and they're looking at it, and one of the union stagehands decided that instead of using the lobster scope, he was just going to wave a magazine in front of the spotlight. And I looked at it and I said, that looks terrible. And my dad is going, shh, union. And this was my first introduction to lighting in a more or less professional world. I had nothing to do with it. I went to a theater arts summer camp called Harand Camp of the Theater Arts, and I would help light the stages with par 38s inside of coffee cans with gel taped on the front of them, and it was a blast. It was just so much fun to do. I continued doing that in high school, and then basically said, I don't want to be a starving artist. What else will I do? And I actually started school thinking I was going to go into medicine. But in order to pay for my tuition, living expenses, I wound up working in television studios, just to pay the bills. And because I had picked up enough about stagecraft and lighting, and even a little bit about video cameras in high school, at the time I was able to get a job. And that continued to when I went to the University of Texas, and realized at some point after, getting into dissecting and stuff, that I really didn't enjoy doing that nearly as much as I enjoyed doing what the work that I was doing in the television stations. And it occurred to me, well, I wasn't going to be a starving artist. If I switched, I was already making a living in the business. And so I changed my major and went into what at the time was called radio, television, and film. So sort of an indirect path to it. Once I entered the program for radio, TV, film, I had already been working in television for effectively a couple of years at that point. And so I was familiar with what I was doing. And I wound up doing some of the lighting, I think mostly because nobody else wanted to do it. It was considered the one position on the crew where if you made an error, it was immediately apparent to everybody else. And so nobody wanted to do it. But for me, it was like, oh, I can do this and it's fun. So that sort of started me down the path.
So you came into the lighting aspects via being a cameraman or a DP then?
I did. I came into lighting after having done everything, including sweeping the studio. By the time I was given the title of lighting director, I had already been the chief photographer at a TV station. I was already shooting nature documentaries. I was already working on studio crews and understood the equipment. And frankly, at one point, the lighting director at the station I was living in went on to earn his fame in Hollywood. And the director at the station was going, well, who is going to fill this position now? And he turned to me and said, Bruce, you could do this. And I'm going, no. He said, it pays $1 more an hour. And I said, oh, okay. And so I threw my hat into the ring at that point. And that was the first time that I was called a lighting director, but I knew so little about it. I mean, it really was just the beginning of learning about lighting.
What station were you working at?
This was a PBS station in Houston called KUHT, and they, I think they were the first public television station in the country. And it was a wonderful place to learn about television in general, because Texas being what it is, it was a non-union station. And so you could do everything. And the boundaries between the divisions were, there were no boundaries. I was technically in the production department. My office was in the art department, and I managed a budget in the engineering department. And so it was this connection between all of the main divisions within the television station. And I considered it was extremely fortunate, because I could move freely between all those areas and try to understand and hear from them what it is they wanted to accomplish, and have a better understanding of those interstitial places between those departments. And in doing that, it was a lot of fun for me, and I think at the same time, what we were able to accomplish was a little less constrained than had it been a union station. And we actually had a PBS series that we did for that. It was called Signing with Cindy, and it involved the chief, the host of the show would lip sync these elaborate musical productions, sort of like music videos, while sign language interpreting it. And this was all wrapped around, was wonderful fun. I don't know that they can still do a lot of that now. I'm not sure they're generating those kinds of productions, but it was a great opportunity and learning experience.
You went on to, I may have the numbers wrong, but you've probably done well over 100 affiliate studios around the country, and you're well known among the affiliates for redoing studios and working with scenic companies. How did you end up getting into that world that really became your career?
One of the stations I worked at in Houston was part of the Belo Broadcasting Group, which is
I know
Tegna
Belo
now.
Yeah.
And once the group understood that there was somebody in Houston who could kind of wrangle the lights and figure out how to make things look good, the group started using me. And so Belo would send me out to the different stations with either their existing news sets or new news sets, and I would do the lighting for them. I loved that. There was a limited number of stations in the group, and really the moment that I got into doing news sets almost all the time was after I had left my work at ABC Disney. I was with an O&O in Houston as well. But after I left Disney, I started looking around for opportunities to work on more news sets, because it felt like a niche to me that I could fill well, and I suspected there was a demand for it based on just looking at the way most news sets were looking. And I found a company that did a very good job designing and building new news sets, called the Devlin Design Group, and I looked at what was going on, the lighting that I was seeing on that, and I said, if you ever need another option, if you would like to maybe go a slightly different way with lighting, let me know. And they vetted me and let me start doing some of their news sets, and it turned out to be a good combination. I enjoyed working with them, and they liked the results that were there. And so as a result of that, I would wind up working on a news set for them almost every month.
Yeah, they're very busy. Dan Devlin has his hands on the pulse of everything going on in affiliates around the country.
He does. It is very satisfying to take a design on paper or rendered and envision the way that it could look, and then be able to work with a company who says, well, what do you need? And pull that all together and make it a reality. Sort of take the vision and make it real in what amounts to a black box studio. And I guess the work that I did was well enough accepted so that they kept inviting me to do more and more sets. And we, for a number of years there was a group, what was it, BDA, Promax BDA, and another studio, a group that would award set of the year. And for about 8 or 9 years, we were sweeping the awards for news sets. And only some of that is lighting. It's the design and pulling it together, the planning and providing something that was really flexible for the stations.
You're thinking of, I guess, Newscast Studio. Newscast Studio does
Newscast
the same
Studio.
thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, they give out the awards, and they really monitor television broadcast affiliates around the country. Let me ask you this, only because lately I find myself, and you and I do a lot of the same type work, the affiliates, and we've got several projects right now going for CBS studios, the affiliates are going away from standard scenery and installing green screens in many of the O&Os using augmented reality and virtual reality technology. As someone who's designed well over 100 television studios around the country, how do you feel about the desire that now exists to replace all the traditional scenery and all the traditional broadcast techniques with augmented virtual reality studios that are just simple green screens?
While I have lit a number of green screen sets, I don't like some of the approaches that are being used where they're just taking a giant space and flatly illuminating everything so their people can walk anywhere the graphic happens to be, while it opens up possibilities for them to put their anchors in places that they otherwise could not be. What it lacks is the punch and the separation and depth that lighting can impart to form, because they're normally illuminated in a way that it's safe. It's like, well, can you walk here? Can you walk here? Is it the same foot candle and flat everywhere you are? And I don't think that's the best application of green screen. I think what you can do within a green screen world, within a virtual world, is understand where the light is supposed to come from and let that be felt on the subjects who are on the set. It goes back to chiaroscuro. It goes back to Renaissance painting, to the time when images were no longer flat, when artists began to understand perspective and shape and highlight and shadow to impart that sense of third dimension to what is ultimately a two-dimensional medium. We've got a flat screen that we view things off of, and our cameras have one eye, so they don't have binocular vision. And lighting, more than just providing a base of reflectivity that a camera sensor picks up and can translate into an image, we can create that additional dimension. We can impart that sense of shape and form, but we can do it with shadow and highlights and separation. And the green screens, I just recently saw a green screen, a new set. Yes, it's lovely electronically generated background and amazing what they can do. But the people look like flat cutouts because all the lighting on them is flat.
And there's no shadow on the floor.
Well, yes, right. And it is that shadow that tells you the shape of things. And if we can't view it with two eyes, and our brain interprets what we see by converging on that single image, you don't have that with a single lens of a camera. And the lighting becomes all the more important. So what I would love to see, and yes, if you have, a small figure in the middle of a giant weather map and they're talking about hurricane forces coming in and hail and describing it, lovely. But when you go in for the close-up, and most of the shots that we have in television are close-up, we should be able to see that form. Green screen is not bad. But at the very least, I think you should have a home base and a position for your anchors where you can treat the light accordingly to make them look their best, not just so they clip out well against the green screen, but so that they have form and shape and warmth and a sense of real presence in a way that might otherwise be lost under undifferentiated floodlight.
Well said. Well said. I call it refrigerator lighting. You open the door, your orange juice looks the same as your milk, looks the same as your pickles.
Exactly.
There's no dimension at all. It's just open the refrigerator door and there it is. Everything's lit.
Yeah. I think it makes a difference. One of the tricks is that the only way that we can get lighting that does make a difference, lighting that is distinguished between just illuminated and something that imparts that special quality to it, is when we get the client to understand the difference, when they can appreciate the value of how dimensional lighting brings something of value to their product. And I think once we do that, then we can go, oh, yes, we have our base light now. Let's bring in some additional keys and backlights and, put them in a area that we can actually shape the light and paint them better with light. I know I see the difference. Does the audience still care? I hope so. Does it make a difference to them? I think it does. I think that it makes people more relatable when they're on camera. It creates an image that's more captivating than just flat illumination.
My question is the audience even watching? I mean, broadcast TV is having a pretty significant death run right now. Most people are getting their news from their iPhones and from YouTube and places like that.
No, I know a lot of people who still watch 60 Minutes. They watch the Sunday morning shows. They watch, I don't know.
It's all changing.
I guess.
The business is changing. And the question is, if you're working in broadcast TV or in video, right? And, obviously, if you're looking at a cell phone, that's a video. That's video. You change your approach to lighting. If more people are watching, that's where the money is. That's where the revenue is. Does there have to be a technological change or an artistic change that broadcast designers do because they're changing the format of where people are getting their news?
I think that's a very good point. And you are absolutely right. We have to design our lighting for the medium and the way it's consumed. I remember the first time I lit a project and it was most people who are going to view this are going to view it on their phone. And rather than just go, oh, well, it doesn't matter, I thought, well, it's a small image. It should still stand out. They're taking a slice of it that's very much like the same close-ups. And actually, the phone is close to their face. They're if it were a large screen across the room, the image would probably be roughly the same size as what they're looking at in their hand. So I still think that the quality of that image comes across. It's visible. It can be seen. It's not like, oh, well, we're looking at it on a small TV that's across the room. It's a high resolution screen in the palm of their hand, viewed from 18 inches away, and that actually could be a large, relatively large image because of its proximity and how it's viewed. I don't think that we should give it any less attention than what we would to a 4-camera studio show. Now, will people pay for that? I don't know. Do they care enough to do it? I'm not sure. And I'll tell you why. I wrote an article recently on podcast studio lighting. And I wrote it primarily because I was appalled at how some of the podcast lighting looked. And granted, people are multitasking and they have several windows open and they're like listening to one thing and watching another and glancing over. But I looked at like Joe Rogan, one of the highly rated podcasts. He spent more money on the neon light that was in the background behind him than he did on any of the lighting on him or his guest. I just shake my head. But there are other podcasts that do seem to care, other video podcasts as opposed to just audio ones. And they actually do a good job. And it looks good. And it creates an ambience that makes people want to join or listen in and be there with it. Is there a value in that? Absolutely.
It's interesting you point that out. And by the way, I love that article. It was the February issue of tvtech.com. And our audience, if you want to follow up and read some of Bruce's columns, they're just wonderful in tvtech.com. But in that particular article, I think you nailed it, Bruce, in the way that the industry is going. And I've probably done 15 or 20 podcasts, and it's shocking to me how little quality they care about. It depends on the show. I just one for The View, and they cared a great deal about how their women looked. But based on the doom and gloom that David Jock just presented to us, how do you envision the role of the lighting director or the lighting designer, which I prefer to be called, in the future, considering the way it's going and considering that there are streaming shows like Joe Rogan that look god-awful but are highly, highly rated? And let's face it, the people that hire us only care about the ratings, not necessarily about the quality.
I think before you answer this, Bruce, this is not limited to podcast lighting. I watch Morning Joe every morning, and some of the worst lighting I've ever seen on television is on that show. Not in the studio, but on all the remotes. And you can actually see the ring lights in people's glasses. I mean, if this is the standard that a major network is setting, then where do we go from there? And we talked about this on the show before, and Dennis would say there was a time when people had help setting up their home studios. But now, apparently that budget's been cut.
I think it goes beyond home studios, and I'm wondering if the culprit here is the university professor or the manufacturer who says, look, back in the day, you needed 5 lights to do this and do it right, but we got this one light. And this one light, you can tune the color temperature of it. There's a dozen different lenses you can put in front of it. And don't worry, by the way, it can be any color you want. I just got invited to sit in on something which was, I'm a novice, but it was just the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life. And it was, money had been spent, but no one really kind of understood how to use the equipment, or they understood where to place the equipment. And I was sitting there just losing my mind going, you got a light sitting in the corner over there that's, unplugged, waiting. It's saying, send me in, coach, send me in. I can solve the problem if you just plug me in. So I'm wondering if the training somehow has gotten, and I'm going to say there are no villains here. We have forgotten the artistry of it, and we're thinking technology can solve all of our problems.
But they don't need the artistry because most people watch their phones, and guess what? They don't watch them in landscape. They watch them in portrait.
I don't know. I've been watching a photographer do a number of kind of classic photographs from the 20s and 30s and 40s. That is simply lit with 1 or 2 lights, and he shows how it's done. And it's really quite fascinating because he's taken the time to learn the technique of angle, the technique of form, and you just look at it and go, oh, I'm just wondering if something has happened here. I'm not sure quite what it is. I think it goes beyond just the evil corporations wanting to save money. I think the people coming up maybe don't know as much as that vital things have been left out of their training. And it's hard to do this when you're in the room and the clock is ticking. You do what you've been taught to do, and the refrigerator light looks pretty good.
I don't think they care. I really don't think they care. 2 of Lori's kids, both of her kids, one's 27, the other one's 21. They're really smart. Right? One guy is he's like a coder, and he's like making more money than Lori and me combined ever. And the guy's great, and he's really smart, but they don't care about that sort of thing. They care about information. They don't care how the information is given to them. They don't care if it's poorly lit. They just don't see it anymore. I think they see it, but I don't think they care. I don't think that's at the top of their priority.
That it's up to us to care. I really think that if they're sending out a lighting cameraman to the field to shoot a major talent as a correspondent, it's up to that lighting cameraman to deliver the best video product he can. Even as a young lighting cameraman, Bruce Aleksander recognized the importance of lighting and decided to go into that. I see too often cameramen in the field that think their job is to just go out and shoot something and deliver that end product regardless of what the quality is. They can make it better, but they need to, number one, as Steve said, they need to know how. Maybe they're not being trained, but they need to desire to make a better product. There's no reason we should be training an audience to look at bad pictures, and that's what we're doing. And the pandemic was the greatest culprit of that. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, you are absolutely right. I think the pandemic and everybody appearing on Zoom and just, terrible lighting, windows behind them, blown out, just silhouettes. That period of time and what became acceptable, I think, lowered the standard, and it will take us a while to recover from that. But look at where audio files are going now. They're going, oh, we don't like the compressed digital files. We're going back to vinyl because it has that certain sound, that resonance, that quality that is worth the trouble. And good lighting has to be worth the trouble. And this is why we need to at least show people the difference, the people who are in charge of the budgets, so they can understand and see the difference. And I'll tell you some of the most important people standing up for good lighting in my world were the anchors, because they knew that if we cared about the lighting, it made them look better, and they cared about looking better. I can remember I was doing some lighting with Lily Tomlin, and she didn't know me. I didn't know her. There was no sense of trust, but she was adamant that her lighting be good and that she looked good. And she understood when the lighting was going to be flattering for her and when it wasn't. And every major anchor I've worked with appreciates that I will struggle and go the distance to make sure they look their best. And once you do that, and again, this may be the world gone by when anchors actually held some sway and mattered, but you would have anchors that go, I want Bruce to do this, and we would guard and take care of them and make sure that they were seen in the best possible light, like it was a child we were protecting. And that comes across.
Bruce, I just got to say something. That's a very good point. You're absolutely right. But something, an AI anchor could give a damn about how they look. And this is what's in our future. Everyone's going to be able to create their own anchor. Whoever you want to see. That's your anchor. That's the person giving you news. It's not that far off. It's already happening in music. In music, I posted this great 9-minute Rick Beato discussion about AI music, and he's playing this music. And the point that he has is that he's an expert. He's a producer. He's been doing it for, decades. And he said, I can't tell the difference. And people are creating their own music depending on what prompts they are giving the program. I think it's just a matter of time where a lot of people are going to be choosing their own anchors.
I'm going to go back to the question that I asked Bruce, and we ended up getting sidetracked about how he envisions the role of the lighting director evolving in the future. I mean, I just hired two new lighting designers for Lighting Design Group right out of school, talented young people. I will mentor them. I will show them how television works. They'll be working on projects of ours, but what lies in the future for them? I mean, Bruce, do you really think the job that you and I did 30 or 40 years ago will exist in 10 years? I think not.
I think that as long as you have live action people on the set and you have an audience that cares about quality or is moved by some quality that the image has that captivates them, then there's a role. I think that the work that Lighting Design Group does now and the stable of lighting designers that you have, I think it's clear that that's a specialty that stations no longer have in-house, and they will depend on the specialists like the ones that you're currently training. If we go absolutely AI and the anchors are the result of carefully worded prompts, then no. Maybe for some boutique application where you have a personality that actually is appearing in the flesh in front of a camera, then you need somebody that knows how to do that. I think it'd be a very sad world not to have that. I think that taking that human quality out of the mix is a loss for our culture and society. I think that just having artificially created news reader host can't impart the qualities that make us human because it isn't human. And I hope not to see that day.
Well, it's certainly food for thought. You need to get all these ideas together, and that's your next column in TV technology.
I think we all share, Bruce, your concern about that. The issue, though, is that we're powerless. And, it's all about money. Now, did you guys ever watch that great program called Hacks? It's a wonderful program. It's a comedy, and it's about a sort of a washed-up Vegas comedian. She's amazing, great acting, great writing. But there's an episode in this season about where someone's trying to buy her voice and likeness, like, one of these billionaires in Vegas. And she's like saying, wow, I could fund all this if I sell my voice and likeness. And there's this great argument about this that they have.
I was just going to say maybe we're all of a certain age and we're clinging on to things we know because, television was going to get rid of radio and, streaming was going to get rid of whatever, movies. And, we're being nostalgic for something that kids are never going to know and not going to miss.
I hope that's not the case. I can still watch a film or a television show and be amazed and sucked into it and forget that it's an artificial creation. And I don't mean AI created, but to lose oneself in the story, to that suspension of disbelief that lets you get sucked in for that hour, for that entertainment. That's something that I think we still value, and that I don't see that going away. It may transform. The equipment that we use to create it may be different, but the storytelling that enchants us is still relevant. It's still important.
You know, Ellen, I'm going to say I think you're wrong.
I can be wrong. It's okay.
Well, you know, because what I'm going to say is we've all seen really perfectly adequate lighting design in the rock and roll world. And it's spectacular, and it's big, and it's flashy, and it's bloodless. And we've all seen really great design. And it comes back to that human being putting the show together and understanding the music and having a point of view, as opposed to, again, a perfectly adequate show. And it doesn't really matter what music is running underneath it. It could be anything.
Right, but that wasn't really my point. I agree with you. I think there's been some phenomenal rock and roll lighting. I thought the point was whether the next couple generations are going to really care whether their anchor is AI generated or not.
I think they'll see the difference.
You know, what about all these like virtual light rigs now? That's like the new thing. We should get somebody on to talk about that. It's like
Good point.
when the
Good
Tonys
point.
last year, you know, there's that Hamilton mashup I love, and all the lights on the back wall are virtual.
Let's wrap up with one final question. And that question we always ask everyone is, do you have some advice for someone who is wanting to follow in your footsteps?
Especially after the discussion we just had.
So I don't think that it's possible to follow in my footsteps, because the path that I took is very different from those that graduating, aspiring lighting designers have in front of them. It's a different path, and it's hard for me to guide somebody along a path that, looking behind me, has disappeared. So looking forward, what I recommend you do is understand that whatever you learn in school is probably just the framework on which you need to build the rest of your knowledge, understanding, and practice in lighting. And I think that you should find people whose lighting you admire and watch what they do, learn from them, and don't limit it to just one person. Go out and see as many designers, as many designs, as much work as you can expose yourself to, and then synthesize your own way of doing it.
Good point.
Great. That's wonderful, wonderful advice.
So, Bruce, we'd like to thank you again for being on the show today. It was wonderful to talk with you. And as a parting gift, by the way, Dennis is going to send you one of his yachts. So keep a lookout for that UPS guy coming down the road. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
Light Talk, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California, the tropical paradise St. Bart's, the Lone Star State, from way up in the Northwest in Seattle, Washington, and from Soho in New York City.
Be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
Well, we'll see you all next Wednesday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.